Have you ever wondered why some business people are more successful than others? Welcome to the Mentorlist, a source of sound advice with your host, David Lewis. The Mentorlist specialises in interviews with top business minds. Listen to their stories, list their habits, and most importantly, gather their advice for your career. This is the Mentorlist.
Hi, welcome to the show. Today we're dropping in again to see our friends at Melbourne Business School and having a chat with Zeger Degraeve. Zeger Degraeve became the Dean of Melbourne Business School in 2011 and co-Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics at the University of Melbourne in 2013. After completing his PhD at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, Zeger became a Professor of Management Science at the Catholic University in his home country of Belgium before joining London Business School in a number of roles over 12 years, which included Associate Dean of Executive MBA and Global Programs and later Deputy Dean of Programs while serving on the school's Executive Management Committee and Board of Governors. It was here that Zeger was appointed the inaugural Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Professor of Innovation in recognition of his innovative work in establishing London Business School's Centre in Dubai for the first time. Zeger has published more than 50 research papers in leading academic journals, which include Operations Research, Management Science, Informs Journal on Computing, European Journal of Operational Research, and Harvard Business Review. His research has won several awards, most notably from the Association of the European Operational Research Societies for the Best Applied Paper and the Chairman's Award for the Best Applied Contributed Paper by Informs. Alongside his academic career, Zeger has worked with businesses such as Cadbury Schweppes, Rio Tinto, Shell, HSBC and others on executive education programs and consulted for the European Commission, Anderson Business Consulting, National Economic Research Associates and McKinsey & Co. So Zeger is a frequent media commentator in Australia and international outlets including the Financial Times, Australian Financial Review, The Age, Herald Sun, The Conversation and other media titles, which now include the Mentorlist. So I hope you enjoy my conversation today with Dean Zeger Degraeve. Zeger Degraeve, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
No, thanks for making the time, and yeah, it's great to be back here at Melbourne Business School with you to do the recording today. So I might start off with the first question, which is just if you could tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So, well, I'm currently 55 years old, and I'm the Dean of Melbourne Business School for the last 5 years. Almost to the day, finished my 5th year here in Melbourne. Born and bred in Belgium. And if I really have to look back on where I'm now, and I'm actually astounded by how much I've been determined or influenced by my parents, actually.
Right.
Although I thought, certainly 30 years ago, so when I was in my late 20s or early 30s, that I was completely rebelling against them or against their views or their ambitions that they had about me.
Sure.
But if I look now at where I am, right, I can actually say, Mom and Dad, I'm pretty much confirming how you determined me to be. And very simple, right? So I'm the dean of a school. My mom was an elementary school teacher.
Right.
And so in the end of the day, I became a teacher. Very strange. My dad was a banker. He was in a very commercial job. And he was the director of a fairly sizable branch of a bank.
Yep.
And leading that, right? And so you look at me. I am the director of a fairly sizable school. Not big, right? But excellent quality institution. So very strange. I became the director in a leadership role of teaching, education, and teaching a research institution. And so I combined actually my mom's and my dad's talents and skills, while actually, right, my dad wanted me to be an employee in his bank. And the first thing I did was, when I had the opportunity, stay at college and become a teaching assistant, a research assistant. I was always interested in learning, in education, in teaching also, and I surely did not want to work in a bank like my dad did, and so I was absolutely rebelling against that. But look at where I am.
So this is sort of looking back, not obviously looking forward. You're rebelling from both of them, and then looking back, you've almost
complied.
Proud.
Almost made them proud. My mom, unfortunately, has passed away about 2 years ago. My dad is still alive, and I know, he's very proud.
So they were still in Belgium, or did they follow? No. So you've obviously moved around in your career.
Yeah, so then it actually started at this moment that I was rebelling against my father, right? So I had graduated from engineering school. I felt that as an engineer, okay, I mean, you could do lots of technical calculations and, I mean, design engines. And at the time we were designing wind turbines, and it was extremely interesting. But I was a bit half satisfied only because you never knew, right, whether our designs were really economically feasible, doable. And so I wanted to study business also to see, look, what are the investment requirements? How much does it cost? And does it make sense to do such technological developments? So then I went to business school. And after that, my dad said, okay, now you've done enough school, right? You've got 2 college degrees. It's time to work. And you got the business degree. Why don't you work for my bank? And the moment I noticed a research teaching assistantship, I was then at the University of Leuven in Belgium, right, which is one of the oldest universities in the world and excellent institution. From the moment I saw teaching assistantship, research assistantship, I just jumped on the occasion. I said, Dad, I'm sorry, I'm employed. I got a salary here. I can do research. I can teach and mostly do exercise classes and so on and so forth. So no, I won't work in your bank. We said, what a low salary you're working for. This is terrible. You shouldn't do. Well, I said, look, that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I did. Lo and behold, a few months later, and so that's where I really started, right? The professor that I was working with, I was just an assistant really, grading exams, teaching exercise classes, doing a bit of research. Got a request from a colleague in the US that they were looking for doctoral students. And that made me think. And so this professor said, Zeger, if you're interested in research, it's not a bad thing to consider. You should go and study in the US.
Wow.
Because, I mean, the resources are different. The US, there's lots of resources, right? So usually in some of the top schools, you will have a good grounding in research and research methodology, and that will set you up for a future career in academia if you're interested in that.
So did you know then that you're sort of heading down that path?
Not yet, but I was interested in research and particularly in teaching, because research, actually, to be honest, you don't know. You don't know much what it is.
Yeah.
So it's something you grow into, you familiarize yourself with by being in a research environment, in a research group. But as a student, you're absolutely not familiar with it. I mean, you see a teacher teaching, and that's actually what I wanted to do.
Right.
So that got me thinking. I said, gee, if I can go to the US, right, why don't I apply to a number of schools? And I applied, actually not many, I applied to 3 schools, and I was admitted in 2 of the 3 schools that I applied to.
Yep.
And eventually I decided to take an offer at the University of Chicago. I was admitted and also another top school, but in Chicago I could do. Then specifically, we were talking about the project of research that I would do, right? And there was discrete optimization. And in this other school, I had to work more with unknown phenomena. So statistics, lots of statistics to describe those unknown patterns and behaviors. So I had to do stochastic decision making, and I was more interested in discrete It's a simple reason, when I had to study a stats course in college, I had a girlfriend and I never went to class.
Right.
And I never, since then, I know statistics. I know statistics very well. It's now my area, actually. But I never, at the time, I was like 26 or so. I didn't feel really very comfortable with statistics.
Right.
So I didn't want to do anything to do with stochastic, so probabilistic work. And so when I had this opportunity to work in the field of discrete combinatorial optimization in Chicago, right, I went to Chicago and I stayed 5 years at the University of Chicago to do a doctorate.
So that would have been, so it's a great area for a young guy coming out of Belgium. You would have been, it would have been
on my own time. 2 suitcases, jump in the plane, direct flight from Brussels at the time to Chicago, and maybe I was going for 3 years, okay, when you're a healthy young man, right? So you have girlfriend again in between. So I probably got a bit, all right, man, you're a human being also. Yeah. So in the end, I finished my doctorate in 5 years. But in the meantime, yes, right? So I had a life a bit in between, but there were also periods. And certainly, I would think maybe in total, about 2 to 3 years where I was almost living as a monk in a small room. The thing about the room where I actually had the insights that really helped me make my PhD, my doctorate. And so you need to make a contribution to research, to science, right? So you have to have an original idea. And it's like an insight or a generalizable methodology. So it's something that, is true or is lasting and it's new. Nobody has discovered it before. Okay. So that requires a focus and a persistence over a significant period of time, because first of all, you got to familiarize yourself with the knowledge in your field. And then you got to make try to find the contribution. It often happens by accident, trying to find those contributions. But the point is, if you don't think about them, you'll certainly never reach them. You'll never find them. So you got to do it. The defining characteristic of research is that you got to engage with it. You got to be busy with it. You got to do it. And if you're unlucky, you don't find anything. Right? You got to be lucky a bit at the end also. But the process of becoming lucky is outlined, so we know what it takes, right? And it's a persistent, good process. And then if you do well, right, you'll be lucky at the end. Okay?
Was that sort of the start on research, sort of heading into the decision making?
Yeah. So what I'm actually, right, so I learned to model decisions. So if people have to make decisions, right, we can make mathematical models of those. And then so a model is some sort of an abstraction or a description of the decision that people are facing.
Right.
And by virtue of casting it in mathematics.
Yep.
You can then give it to a computer, and a computer will crunch out suggestions for what are good decisions and what are bad decisions. So a computer will help you then reach conclusions on the decision or on suggestions what alternatives are the best ones to take. All right, so that's what I do. But that's what I've done. A human decision problem, find the mathematical description of it, feed that to a computer, and a computer suggests then, that's maybe not a bad alternative to pick. Contributions are then in finding those models, right? Modeling a real problem into something that you can describe in mathematical terms.
Yeah.
You can make contributions. You can also make contributions in the way that the computer crunches out the suggestions and finds almost always better suggestions.
Yeah.
Even sometimes combination of suggestions that the decision maker hasn't dreamed of yet. Okay. So you can improve the search process that the computer is going through as well.
With the research, focused around decision making, how does this play out for you personally? Is this something I can imagine going through that routine, you sort of would ingrain it into your own thinking, or have you seen that play out? Or?
Well, it's fascinating, right? Yes, certainly, right? So it provides a method and also a process of thinking. And we call that analytical thinking, right? Where you analyze, you structure, you then create process, right? And you follow it and you see what. The key point that I wanted to make, though, that for about 3 years to get acquainted with the field and make contributions to the field, I was virtually living as a monk. I didn't do that the whole time, right? So I talked about, I had a girlfriend and I had different interests at some point also during those 5 years that I was in Chicago. But really the crucial moments of obtaining insight in a field and then making contributions to a field. Right? I remember the room that I was living in. I could stand in the middle of the room, straight up, and with my 2 arms stretched out, right, from left and right on shoulder height. And I could balance on my feet and touch the 2 walls of the room. So I would balance to the left and I would touch the left wall of the room, and I would balance to the right and I would touch the right wall of the room without falling over.
Yeah.
That was the size of my room in Chicago. I didn't have much money. Yeah. I had 2 suitcases. I remember a whole bunch of t-shirts and a bunch of jeans, right, and sneakers. And I was around 30 years old.
Wow. Okay. What about deep crust pizza? That's what I think of when I think of Chicago. Was that a big thing then, the deep crust pizza?
So I live in a dorm, and the food of the dorm was absolutely horrendous. I mean, everything tastes like chicken. And in the end, I know what that was like. So they would do anything beef or whatever. It didn't even look like beef, right? But anything what they were feeding us tastes like chicken. And then we wonder how come it all tastes like chicken. And the reason was because they would give like chicken leftovers that would get into the food of the
fry everything.
Yeah, and I was like, but they would also feed the animals this chicken leftovers. So they would make like some sort of a food paste, and they would feed that to animals, and the animals would start tasting like chicken. And that apparently was. So yes, the Chicago style deep dish pizza was a relief that we could afford maybe once a month or so, right? Occasionally, that was a big treat.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we're over in America, and we've somehow gotten back over to Europe, and we're at London Business School.
Well, there was the step of Leuven in between. So this professor whom I had worked with just after college, right, who had said, you should go to the US to get a good grounding in research, right, hired me back in Leuven. I was 7 years on the faculty of the University of Leuven, the business school, which was excellent, allowed me to continue with research and build a substantial publication record. But then someday the Dean of London Business School called me and offered me a job as a professor at London Business School. And after 7 years in Belgium, right, so that was 99, I was 39 years old, right, so 38, 39 years old. I was ready for an adventure, and I decided to take the job at London Business School. And I was a professor for 12 years at London Business School. Essentially, I taught MBA students, mostly executive MBA students, really, so students in their 30s, in the first couple of years, the first 3 or 4 years, right? And then my teaching assignments moved into executive education, where I was in a small team of about 10 of London Business School's faculty who were doing intensive teaching in the school's corporate programs. You named them.
Yeah.
IBM, Nestle. I need to prepare for that more, right? All the clients, but the banks, Royal Bank of Scotland, Merck, pharmaceutical company, Novartis, Switzerland, almost, you name any of the big companies. Too many to name, actually. The banks, HSBC, I would have to look up the list, right? I did that for a number of years, also 6 years, I think. Then I became, in between, actually also Deputy Dean programs. Right? So I started doing a bit of administration for London Business School, a program administration, and actually significant program administration for 5 years in total. I did that, right? So I was a program dean of the school. That's a significant responsibility. And part of that assignment was that we started the campus in Dubai of London Business School. That was part of my remit. So I spent a lot of my time in Dubai actually setting up a satellite campus of London Business School.
How did you find, I assume that you stopped you're not delivering classes anymore. It looks like 18 years of teaching, and now you're working on the business, maybe not in the business. So how did you find that?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I feel that in a leadership role, you expand your impact. If you're a teacher, you work very intensely, but you work with your class, you develop your class, you work on it, and it's really fun and exciting. And I'd like to come back to that actually, right? The only reason why you can do what you do, and that's you've got to find something that's fun and exciting to do, and probably that's linked to something that you're good at doing. Also. But the major reason why administration or academic administration is exciting is because you scale your impact. You have impact on many classes rather than on one. And often quite significant impact, actually, also. Right? So the extent and the reach of your contributions become wider than if you're a teacher. That is exciting about it. But if you think what does it take to be successful, I think you got to know what you kind of like. So here was an alternative. I could have been a violinist. I loved playing the violin when I was a kid, right? So I was playing violin all the time, day in, day out. So I was pretty good at it. But my dad said, how can we help you? We have no idea. You're just playing this violin there all the time. Well, my dad said, I don't think you're really good at it. I thought I was pretty good at it, but he said, you got to do something different. And so I enjoy doing it. I enjoy playing tennis. And I'm not bad at sports, but I think I'm a better teacher.
Yeah.
And so you got to find really what you're good at. And then I think it is by having small successes one step at a time, because it needs to be encouraging also. It cannot be a continuous hard slog without results. So you need to be persistent and focused, right? So continue doing what you're doing, and in the hopes that so you got to get lucky, right? And
so, what advice would you have, for yourself as you're?
So the best advice is to really figure out, and it's not specific, right? But find out what you're good at. Make sure that you have small but a bit of successes, right? That are encouraging or inspiring. To really become good at what you do, right, you've got to be very persistent. You've got to do this many, many, many times over and over and over and over and over again. But it's little results that are encouraging, because otherwise it becomes a hard slog and it is discouraging. But you become good at something by doing it many, 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 many times for many, 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 many hours, and actually maybe for a number of years. I mean, certainly to be good at research, I was doing research for 3 years. But you have small successes which are encouraging that you're making progress. Mm-hmm. The same now with administration, right? You start in an associate dean role, then in a deputy dean role, then eventually you become dean. By the time you become dean, I've been in administration already for 10 years. And
And now you're a dean and a co-dean.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so just going back to London and maybe take us through to Melbourne. And, now being the Dean of Melbourne Business School, and we can probably touch on the rankings, and, if you read the papers, it's a direct result of some of the changes that have happened since 2011, since you started. So can we maybe move into that?
So back in 2011, early 2011, I had stepped down from all my administrative responsibilities at London Business School, and I was back at being an academic. I thought I had served. It was a phase of my life that I thoroughly enjoyed, but actually, to be honest, I enjoy teaching and I enjoy doing research. And I was back with my office closed, doing research day in, day out. Right? It's very captivating also, particularly when you make progress. You work irregular hours, but often many, many hours. Particularly in the beginning, it's slow, but once you're onto something, you can hardly sleep of the excitement, because you're getting so excited, it's hard to sleep. You just sleep because you're tired. The moment you wake up, right, you're off and running again.
Yep.
Research, it's very captivating. And I also like doing teaching, right, particularly those corporate programs, and I was flying around the world actually. I was teaching in New York, in Hong Kong, in Moscow, in the Middle East. Bit all over the world actually.
Wow,
so that was a lot of fun and exciting, but also very tiring.
Yeah, and so this is sort of exec training that you're being
corporate programs of London Business, and combined with research, which provided sanity. Wow. But then I got I had been contacted before, and it's usually through headhunters. Right? Are you interested in a dean position at some business school here or there in the world? And I said, look, I'm happy in London. Well, London is fantastic. I still think it's the capital of the world. It's the center of the world, in my view, right, as a city. I'm happy here. No, I'm not interested. But, in early 2011, it just had happened that I had turned 50. And I got a call from Dean Ireland here from Egon Zender in the Melbourne office. And then with the question, are you not interested in becoming, at least be a candidate and to be considered for Dean of Melbourne Business School? And I always had said, no, I'm fine, I'm happy, I can have lots of interest here in London. But then you turn 50 and then let me think for a moment. I mean, it's actually now or never. If you want to be dean of a business school, if you wait for 5 more years, then you say, look, then you're turning 55, you've been an academic then, you might as well continue to be an academic for 5 more years and then think about retirement or preparing for retirement, and you're 65 and then you go. And so I said, look, if you want to be a dean of a school or at some point, it's kind of now, or then you can do second term, you do first term, 5 years, you can do second term, then you're 60, and then you can think about retirement plans or preparing for retirement. So so timing is an element also in the career of somebody, right? So I said yes. So I threw my head in the ring.
Yep.
And after interviews and meetings and fly-ins and out from, I had never been in Australia before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My life, right? So the first time, and so, but lots of Skype interviews.
Yep.
And then I came to Australia the first time, interviews, met with the board, met with faculty colleagues in the school, with staff colleagues now in the school, right? And flew back to London and I was offered the job and I came. I took it. And the end of 2011, I was here.
Wow. So first time into Australia was for, I guess, the job interview. So
yep.
Off a, what's that, a 20
So I came for the job.
Yep.
The only thing that attracted was the job. I mean, I liked the school. I liked the environment of the school. I liked the facilities. I liked the people that I met also. I sensed a great, big institutional loyalty from faculty and staff.
Yep.
And the school had a good reputation. And I saw that, I mean, we could make a difference.
Yep.
To some extent, I was becoming a bit disappointed in the school's track record at that time, in the school's progress, at least. So I saw an opportunity for making a difference also, and to make a contribution. You can do two things, right? If a school is really going well and it's highly appreciated and it has excellent reputation, you have to be careful not to screw up.
Yeah, that's right.
But here was a school that could benefit from reputation building, so there was an opportunity to say, look, they have improved or this leadership team has improved the reputation of the institution, and so that's why I took the job.
Fantastic. And just another question. So when Bloomberg did publish that, Melbourne Business School is now in the top 10 MBAs in the world, where were you? And was it sort of high fives or where were you when you found that information out? Because that's sort of...
It's a good question. Know what it was? More relief than anything else.
Right, okay. So.
Because here is the thing, right? So I told you it's 5 years in, right? And that's also the duration in academia. We don't have a share price that reflects the expectations of the market on the evolution of an organization.
Right.
So the horizons in academia are usually, it takes 5 years to do a PhD. To build an academic career, really to have a research record, you work for 12 years and have a number of publications to have a research record. So even now, it's still a bit early days for Melbourne Business School. It's fortunate that we are seeing improvements in the external perception of our quality. And that's what rankings do. Rankings follow improvements of an institution, right? Follow strategy. But here is the thing. So when I arrive, right, you do a diagnostic, you determine what needs to be done, you set strategies, but then for a number of years, you just got to hang in there, keep your head down, work, believe in the strategies you've set without much feedback on. See, the most difficult thing is you never know if you're doing enough. I was pretty sure that we were doing the right things.
Yeah.
But the extent to which you're doing the right things is always the unknown. Because the other schools are not staying put either. They're also evolving and also developing. And in a competitive environment, because you don't have immediate feedback, you don't know if you're doing it. But apparently now the indicators are that we have gone ahead more than the other institutions, right?
Yeah.
Major changes. You look at the Bloomberg rank that you mentioned, that's 14 places improvement, right, from 23 to now.
Yeah.
The Economist ranking, 9 places improvement. The Financial Times ranking now was 3 and then 11, so 14 places improvement. All significant improvements in the external appreciation of how our school is doing.
More relief instead of...
It's more relief saying, our strategies, okay, to some extent, we're delivering the right ones and we do enough. You can always do more, but the question is, have you at least not underdone what you wanted to do?
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I might just lead into some of the other more structured questions now, and just some habits. Is there any habits that, you sort of practice that you think, would benefit the listeners, something that's helped you along your way?
I think I enjoy little luxuries in life, but they're daily luxuries. So I'm not looking for big luxuries, but I enjoy good quality in my life. So I'll explain that. I have a little house, right? But it's perfect. And I like that. I don't need a huge mansion, but all sorts of problems, or even Hughes mentioned that is perfect. I have a little house in Middle Park. It's in the middle of a row, right? It's a small townhouse, right? But it's completely modernized and it's in, perfect working order.
Right.
I drive, here is the best example. My car is a Porsche Boxster.
Right.
That's the smallest Porsche in the series, okay? But for the Melbourne weather, I'm very happy that it has a convertible roof, right? But it's the smallest car in the series, and for me, and it's absolutely, superb quality, and it's completely sorted. You can rely on it, and so that typifies me.
Yeah.
I don't like big things, but I like good quality things, and it's exactly what I want to do with Melbourne Business School also.
Yeah.
This is not a big school, but it is an absolutely superb, outstanding, world-class, excellent institution.
Yeah.
And I want this for our students, for our faculty, for our staff, for ourselves, right, to be really enjoyable. We enjoy the comfort that quality delivers.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I like drinking a glass of wine, but I have one glass of McGill Estate, for instance, rather than drinking 5 bottles of, I don't know. Okay, so, yeah.
But quality, not quantity.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question, I probably should have prepped you on this one, is do you have a book that you'd recommend? Maybe something that you've picked up if it's on the decision making. I
looked it up, right? So I saw your question in my preparation. I looked it up. And the book that was most captivating is Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage.
Okay.
It's a book written by some author, right, on the Shackleton story, Ernest Shackleton, who was an explorer, right, of the Antarctic. It's just an unbelievable, incredible story, and it's a story of skill, tenacity, perseverance, a good process, and luck. And it typifies a bit, I think, my life, but in general, it's an adventure read also, and it's just unbelievable, and it's true.
I'll have to download that one and or pick it up.
Endurance is the name of the ship that they set out to get to the Antarctic. Right? And so Endurance, and then Shackleton is the explorer, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage.
Right. Cool. Okay, I'll link to that on the Mentorlist website.
Yeah.
Awesome. And just a quote. So is there an inspirational quote that you've picked up along the way, or?
I'd like to give one myself.
Yeah, sure. Fire away.
I think it will be helpful if we make choices in life that we are guided by the following question. What would I do for free?
Right.
What would I really like to do if it were for free? Now I know that we got to live and you got to be taken seriously. So we want market compensation for the contributions we make. Absolutely. Otherwise, I think you're being ridiculous. But that's more a sense of being fair, market compensation. Really, I think, guided by what would I do for free?
Yeah.
And that was, I would do my job for free.
Yeah.
But I won't, because that wouldn't be fair to myself.
You're almost asking yourself, what's your passion as well? Because you're taking, I guess, other things out. It's almost coming back to the decision and the work you've done around decision making. So by taking that element out, you're almost asking yourself, what are you passionate about to do? In some regard.
But it is a combination, right? Of my passion is really my students. It's working with students. It's immensely fun. The synergy that you create in a classroom, if you can laugh and discuss and generate insight and give courage, also motivate. Usually people are smart enough. We've got to point them in the right direction and actually motivate to be courageous, do an effort, apply themselves, reflect, be thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, I still remember when I went through the program, they used to offer a World of Management class, and I think the last half hour is when you came in talking about Melbourne Business School, the expectations on us. Yeah, I was just so charged up from that when my wife came to pick me up, she's like, just settle down.
Okay, yeah.
I remember the energy of that still.
But the point is that I feed on it also, and feed on the energy of our students also. And particularly you were a part-time student, right? To come after work at 6:15 here in class and sit here for the 9 o'clock, right? That's absolutely inspiring, right? What a big effort are those part-time students doing. They do work, they have families, right? And then they come to school and sit in class for 3 more hours. How can we be anything less than at the best of our game. We need to be prepared. We can't waste your time, right? By doing, So we need to do the best we can because you're applying such an effort also. So it works both ways.
Yeah.
It's an engagement of the students in class and the engagement of the faculty member, actually, that create a synergy that is motivating, stimulating, energetic. In the end of the day, if you really think why we are here, why are we living? Nobody asked to be born. We were just here by, accident or something. All right? And you and I born, I think the only thing that we really can do is work to improve each other's quality of life. Make it easier for us and more enjoyable to live.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Through education. When you educate people, right, they get more opportunities, more chances. It makes it easier to craft a life for themselves. That's how I see my
I like it. A good way to finish up. I like that. On a very positive note. Okay, so just for the people that are listening in and they're resonating with what you're saying and they want to contact you or come through to the business school and sign up for...
Yes.
You're
most welcome.
Yeah. How do they go about that?
Well, we've got a very good website. The website's there. My contact details are there. I'm happy to talk to anybody really who's interested in Melbourne Business School. This is a small scale, but high quality institution that's inspiring for our community, really. Everybody who gets in touch with us. But our website's there.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll certainly put some links to that and how people can contact through, just clicking through on the Mentorlist website.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time
Thanks,
today.
David.
And tune in again for another great show next week, everyone. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you liked today's show. You can hop online to find out more about our mentor. There's links in how to contact them. There's also links around the books that they've recommended and how you might go about getting your hands on them. Mentorlist.com.au